Okay, so I just had some technical difficulties to sort out, but I'm ready to go now. And I'm going to open up a Word document here and share it with you. So last time you asked about a few words that were related to each other. So this comes down to what we call root words, and that's basically how the Haida language works. Is we have words that like we have the beginning of a word, which is a root word symbolized by this symbol here. Okay, something weird's happening with my document, but um, so this symbol here, which you'll see in like math equations and stuff, is it's a symbol we use to symbolize a root word. So the words that you talked about last time were okay. Something something very strange is happening here. So I'm going to shut down Word for a second here. So basically, Haida words are made up of root words, and then root words have their own meaning. They're like small parts of words. They have their own meaning, but they usually are not able to be used as like full words. So the way that you apply meaning to a root word is to add suffixes, or in some cases you'll add something to the beginning of a word, but that's not as common as adding things to the end of the word. And that's basically the way Haida words are built. And there's control. Okay, so it's telling me I'm holding down the control key, which I'm not. I want to start a word in safe mode. I'm going to press no for that. So root words can have multiple endings added to them. And that's one of the unique things about the Haida language, is that you can add more than one root word to, or suffix to a root word. And it's essentially how words are built in Haida. So I'm going to share my screen here again. I'm hoping the issue has been sorted out. So I got my root symbol here. And if I add this root word, it's forgetting one symbol here. And I don't have my keyboard activated as well. So I'm going to have to do that. Okay, not sure what's going on here. Okay, there we go. So book is a root word, has its own meaning. It essentially means human. So it's not really a complete word. So the way we change the word is we add suffixes to it. So there's three basic types of suffixes. And the way we differentiate them is by adding symbols. First of all, we add a dash. So we have book, and then we have a little hyphen there. That means that it's not a complete word and needs something added to it. And then the suffixes, we start with a dash. And so we have plain suffixes, which will just have a dash in front of them. Then we have, if we have a dash and then an exclamation mark, this is what's called a glottalizing suffix. So this is a plain suffix. So the plain suffix just has a dash and then the suffix afterwards. If there's an equal sign, that means it's a voicing suffix. So if we take this root word and we add a plain suffix to it, like the word, this suffix onum. So since it starts with just a hyphen, that means it's a plain suffix. So what we do when we add this suffix to the root word is we just add it on. Actually, no, this is actually a voicing suffix. So what happens here is that since it's a voicing suffix, that means we have to change the last sound of the root word. So we have to change this, since this rounded K makes a K sound. It's kind of a harder sound. With the voicing suffix, that means we have to soften it. And we have different options here that we can use. So we have the rounded K in this group. We have a rounded G. We have an ejective rounded K. And then we have a rounded X. So we can't replace the sound with itself. So we take that out. If we added this ejective rounded K, that would be hardening the sound. We want to soften it, so we can't take that. We can't use that. If we use this rounded X, it would be kind of changing it into more of a fricative sound. We can't use that. So now we're left with this rounded G. So we change this K into a G, and then we have iguanum. And I'm going to change this to lowercase. So we started off with book, which means human. We added a voicing suffix. So this rounded K became a rounded G. And now we have a word that means person. So if we take that same word and we add, let's say, a glottalizing suffix, what we have to do is we have to change this last sound of the root word. So when we looked at those different options, we had this rounded K, but it had an apostrophe on top. So it makes a harder, more ejective sound. So that's what we need to do here. That's the glottalization. So now we can add this suffix, and we actually place an accent on top of this E. Now we have uquus. So this regular rounded K becomes an ejective rounded K. So it has that sound. Bukwus. And this is the wild man of the woods. So we start off with book. We added a voicing suffix. It became Bukwanum. We took that same root word. We added a glottalizing suffix, and it became an ejective rounded K. And we ended up with Bukwus. So it's a hardening of that rounded K. And if we take that same suffix and add a plain suffix to that root word. I'm trying to think off the top of my head here. So we have Bukwanum, Bukwus. I was going to say Bukwala, but that would be the same as Bukwus. We would have to change this to an ejective rounded K.
The example in Emmons' document is AI, the Quay, body or self.
Okay. So this AI, this is a plain suffix. So we can just add it directly on. And we're going to accent the AI. So now we have Bekwe, which means body. So body of a person. So we have 3 different words now. And different things were happening to the last sound of the root word. With Bekwe, it stays the same because we're adding a plain suffix. With Bekwus, we change this rounded K into an ejective rounded K. So it becomes Bekwus. And then when we added onum, we changed this rounded K to a rounded G, which is a voiced sound. So then it becomes Bagwanum. So that's basically the way it works. And I did mention sometimes you'll add something to the beginning of a word. This usually happens with something like pluralization, or if you are changing a word to mean like very something. So if we want to take this this first word, Bagwanum is one person. So if we want to pluralize that, what we do is we kind of copy this first syllable. We take the B and the E. We're going to copy that, and we're going to paste it in front of Bagwanum, but we're going to change this vowel to B. And this actually changes the location of the accent. So now we have B Bagwanum. B Bagwanum. So when we pluralized it, we added something to the beginning of the word, and now it becomes people. But you can kind of see how the root words and suffixes kind of work together. It's whenever you add a suffix, it's always going to be one of these 3. Those are the only types of suffixes that we have in Haisla. So those are some examples of how that works. And this process of changing words is called morphology. It's basically like the science of how like changing parts of words, like putting them together into full words. So the science of building words, building parts of words together. So that's a basic demonstration, and that's essentially how Haisla words are built. it follows that same process.
Why do we change the K or why does the K change to G?
Because of the suffix. The G, like the onum, is a voicing suffix. So there's different. When I showed you the different variations, like we had a rounded G, we had a rounded K, we have an ejective rounded K, then we had a rounded X. So all of these symbols are related to each other. They're in the same group because they're formed the same way in your mouth. So since this onum is a voicing suffix, we have to change the rounded K, because the difference between this rounded K and the rounded G is that this rounded K is a voiceless sound, but the rounded G is voiced. And that's essentially like why these sounds are grouped together. That's the only real difference between this rounded G and the rounded K is one of them, with one of these sounds, you're using your voice box. There's vibration happening in your larynx. Gua, gua. So if you kind of put your hand on your throat and you make that sound, gua, gua,
Gua. Gua.
you'll feel vibration there, gua. And that's because you're activating your vocal cords when you're making that sound. So that's a voiced sound. This rounded K, gua, gua. So if you feel your throat when you make that sound, gua, gua. Do you feel any vibration? So that means it's a voiceless sound because you're not activating your vocal cords. So this rounded K is a voiceless sound. This ejective rounded K is also voiceless, but it's a harder sound. So it's more like. And this rounded X is also a voiceless sound, but it's also what we call a fricative, because it's making almost a hissing sound, like hua, hua, hua. So these four sounds are related to each other because they're made the same way. You're forming your lips the same way. You're using the same parts of your mouth when you're making the sounds. The only difference is that this first one is voiced. The other three are voiceless. So since the root word has a voiceless rounded K in it, we have to change that when we add this onum suffix, because it's a glottalizing suffix or a voicing or softening. So we have to soften this rounded K. And the way we do that is we change it to this G, this rounded G, because it's voiced. And then we can add this onum to it. So that's basically how that works. I'm trying to think of some other examples off the top of my head. If you take a word like ache, which means good, when you use the word by itself, we don't really say ache. So it's the same thing. We're going to have to change this K. We say ache, ache. So I talked about that kind of hissing sound. That's made by the letter X. So when it's used in isolation, that's the way we pronounce it. That's the isolated word. But if we were to add something to this word, we'd have to change this K or leave it the same depending on what we're adding. So if we add the letter S, so S in this case means like haste, which is, it means like by or of or about. So when we add this, well, you have different options here. Like you can use the word haste separately, or you can reduce it down. You can get rid of the H and the I. You can reduce it down to the S. So when we do that, this S is a plain suffix. So we don't have to make any changes to it. We can just add the S and then it becomes aches. So when we say something like aches nakwa, that means good morning. Or a more literal translation would be like a morning that is good. So in this first case, we've added a suffix. It's a plain suffix, so we can just add it directly to ache. In this case, when we're using it by itself, we have to change that K. And the way we do that is by changing it to an X. So it's just eich. And this is something that happens pretty commonly with isla words. And this process is called lenition. And it's basically like the softening of the last sound of a word. So softening of a sound. It's essentially what that is. If I wanted to change the word ache to mean happy, so ache means good. If I wanted to change it to happy, I would have to add the suffix ekla. This suffix is a glottalizing suffix, and that's indicated by the exclamation mark. So that means we have to change this K. We can't leave it as it is because this is a regular K, and this glottalizing suffix means we have to glottalize the K. The way we do that is we put an apostrophe on top of it, and then we can add the suffix. So then it becomes ekiakala, which means happy. So since this S is a plain suffix, we can add it without having to change the root word. So the root word is ache. With this, when we change it to aches, we can just add the S directly to it. We don't have to make any other changes. When we use the word ache by itself, we have to change the last sound because of this process called lenition. So we're softening that last sound to eich. And then if we want to change it to ekiakala, we have to change that K to a glottalized K, from a regular K to a glottalized K. And then we can add the suffix, and then it becomes happy. So those are some more examples. Hopefully that helps you a little bit more in terms of understanding how that works. So that's essentially how words are built in Heislakilla. You have the root word, which is the beginning of the word. and then you add suffixes to change the context of it. When you change the suffix, you change the meaning of that overall word. So that's kind of the process that the language follows when when we're creating words. I wanted to share something else here. I'm going to open up my web browser. And I've shared this before. This is the Morrison-Hayward orthography website. So I've been making a lot of changes to it. When I first started this site, it was about 2 years ago, and I started off adding a little bit to it. I was in the process of doing that, and then I kind of left it for a while. And when I came back, I updated my website, and I actually lost some of the work that I'd been doing, and the layout changed, and I was having a difficult time trying to figure out how to change everything and get things to look the way I wanted them to look. So I figured all that out, and I started this page that I call selected isla words. So I'm building this as kind of like a focused dictionary. So basically what I have in mind is, with most dictionaries, you have a lot of words that you don't really need. There's like in the Lincoln and Rath Isla Hanaxiala dictionary that was published in 1986. It's a very thorough dictionary. There's over 14,000 entries in there, which is great. They were very thorough in recording the language, but there are some instances where there's maybe a little too much. Like, for example, when you're talking about the left side of something, like the left side of the body is, oh, it's cute to me. Oh, it's cute to me. So that's based on the root word odes. And they list about 6 pages worth of words that start with that odes root word. So it's a lot to sift through when you're trying to look for a word that starts with that root word. So it's a little too much, in my opinion. You don't really need all of those instances of like different variations on essentially the same word. So my idea was to take selected words, like words that are fairly common in the language that you'll hear. Some other words that might not be as common but you might come across them in stories that you might hear or read. Words that you might be interested in general. So that's kind of the idea that I'm following as I'm building this this dictionary. And I've got this basic explanation here. Just kind of explains how this whole thing works. So what I have here is each entry is outlined just to basically visually separate them. And this kind of has to do with the formatting. I had some issues with the formatting as I was building this page. So the way this is built is that when you see a word that has a little black triangle beside it, if you click on it, you get a drop-down section that gives you more information. So this is ant, which means herring eggs. These abbreviations here, these are the abbreviations, these are initials of the speakers. So I have recordings for all of these words. Well, most of them right now. I will have recordings for all of the words eventually. So RR stands for Rose Robinson. DR stands for Dora Robinson. So if you click on this play button, you should hear that. I'm not sure if I have the sound activated, but I'll give this a try and see if you hear it. Did you hear anything?
Okay, no, I can't hear it.
I didn't hear anything either, so I guess I don't have the sound activated. But when you do click on this, it'll play the sound file for you. You can control the volume here, so you can mute it If you pull it all the way to the left, and then you pull it all the way to the right, it gives you the full volume. When you click on these three dots, it gives you different options. You can download the audio file, or you can control the playback speed. So you can slow it down to 3/4, change it down to half the normal playing speed. You can speed it up to 1.25 times, 1.5, all the way up to 2 times the speed. So that's pretty handy. I have a picture here of ant on hemlock branches. We have a little bit of information here. So herring eggs are harvested in early spring and are collected either from kelp or hemlock branches. And then they have a list of related words. So this word here is a'anta. A'anta. And this means to go after herring eggs. So if you were to click on the play button here, it would play the audio file. So AMH is, those are my initials. So that's me speaking. So I tried to use recordings of fluent speakers whenever I could. If I don't have recordings for those words, then I'll record them myself. The next one here is ant-anta. Ant-anta, which means to eat herring eggs. And then the last one is ant-ala. Ant-ala, which means the sound of eating herring eggs. So it has a very distinctive sound when you're eating them. It's very crunchy. So there's an actual word for that. It's ant-ala. So that's some interesting information for people that might not be aware of that. And then when you click on this again, it collapses. This entry it's just a regular, just plain entry. It doesn't have any additional information. But this is Aloh, Aloh, which is a chief's spokesperson. Here's another one, us. So this is a soapberry. So there's the audio file. That's VW, stands for Vera Wilson. So that's her speaking in the audio file. There's a picture of some us there. And some additional information, sometimes called Canada buffalo berry, sopalali, or foamberry. Soapberries are whipped into a treat, sometimes referred to as Indian ice cream. And it also has a scientific name as well. And then there's some related words here that I've added just for additional interest. One thing I'm going to work on is the formatting. You can see that these are all kind of different in terms of the length. So I was having some trouble with that. Like we're looking at this on a desktop computer, so it looks really good. But I was having some issues on when I looked at it on a phone. There were some formatting issues where, like if you open this, basically the text would go down vertically instead of horizontally. So I fixed that in the, I fixed that issue. So when you look at it on a phone, it should look similar to this. Some of these might be pushed down just because the width of the phone is going to be less than the width of a computer screen. But essentially it'll display mostly like this. But I didn't get around to actually kind of evening these out. I would like these to be kind of even, like this section, I would like to be about the same length, the same width as that section there. So I'm gonna have to do some playing around with that. It's not necessary, but just a visual thing that I can do. So I've been working on these. This is as far as I've gotten so far with the formatting. I still need to add some recordings to some of these, but essentially these ones are finished. I'm going to be adding more in between these ones that are finished now. And then these are the ones that I haven't gotten to yet. So these are just basically just single words. And I'm going to be doing the same thing with these words as you see up here. So you're all going to have these boxes around them. Most of these are going to be like pluralized forms. Like this is duhua. Well, that doesn't have a pluralized form, but do teeth does. So if you click on do teeth, it means message or news. So you see the singular form here, that's do teeth. It also has a plural form, do the teeth, do the teeth. So that's something that I've been working on for the past week or so, and it's coming along pretty nicely. It's
That's
getting
really cool.
it's getting a lot closer to what I originally envisioned, like what I wanted it to be.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can't wait to go through it.
Yeah,
I like that you have pictures and stuff too.
yeah. So that was what I had for today. If you had any questions or anything, you can ask me.
Does the word eucalypt, how come that doesn't have person, the human root in it? I thought that meant like members of a village.
Yeah, that's a different root word. It's based on gyuh, and it means house. So
Oh,
gyuh basically it's based on like living. The
oh,
the root word basically refers to living. So gyuh essentially means people you live with.
oh, cool. Good.
Okay, so our time is almost up here. So thank you for joining me, and hope all of this was very helpful to you. And hopefully you get a chance to check out the website.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Ab.
Yeah, you're welcome. So with that, I will say Ex Naqua or Ex Ganuth.
Thanks, Ganus.
Ex
Good
Ganuth.
night.
Good night. Wow.